right? So scientists always start by asking a question, right, to discover something. And that is curiosity. So when we apply the same lens to our own life, right, instead of asking the question, why is this happening to me? Why am I having to go through this? The question automatically becomes, okay, what is happening here? What am I meant to do with this situation? What is a problem that I need to solve?
Today, we are diving into the topic of career transitions, but not the typical ones focused on money or titles. Instead, we are exploring the ones that arise from life changes and personal philosophies. Joining us is Dr. Lakshmi, a brave individual who shifted gears from a fantastic career in cancer research to a whole new path after losing her confidence. She combined her love for science, public speaking, and helping others, thereby creating a unique career path that was truly hers. By the day, she's prepping NUS graduates for the real world, but she also takes the stage as keynote speaker and helping the scientists community to become better leaders for the future. So stay tuned as we delve deeper into this conversation with Dr. Lakshmi about her career transition. Welcome, Dr. Lakshmi.
Thank you, Asta. So excited to be here with you today.
Thank you so much. So we'll begin, Lakshmi. I hope I can call you that.
Yes, of course. Yes.
So, can you briefly walk us the situation that led to this switch from this thriving career in cancer research to becoming a successful keynote speaker?
Absolutely. So, to begin with, I just want to start with an analogy, which is life is sometimes like a video game. It's like you navigate through one level of challenge and then you win that level.
Yeah.
But then it doesn't stop there, right? It takes you to the next level. You navigate through that, then it's a next level. So it's constantly asking you to level up your game and finally you win. So in a video game, there is a tangible win, right? But in life, sometimes it is, it's sometimes one challenge stacked over another. The moment you think it is over, then another comes up. So in my life too, it was actually a series of challenges, one after the other, that was actually asking me to level up my game in some way or the other. And in some cases, sometimes it was not really a tangible change. Like for instance, I did my PhD in cell and molecular biology from the US, and my ambition was to become a cancer drug discovery researcher. And I was doing fabulously well. I got the Dean's Award as well for my PhD. Yeah. And I was moving into like the dream career, working in a top pharmaceutical company. But then life happened. A lot of things changed for me. And then from then on, I moved from this person with a lot of clarity when I was very young to a person who was totally, utterly confused as to what to do next, right? So it was a personal challenge, infertility, which I can share sometime during the conversation. But then what it led me to do was actually discover myself, who I am, and why am I here? So it sort of grounded me from the scientific world to, sort of like the human world, leading me to explore more of human behavior, etc. And through my own career challenges, I think I was led to becoming somebody who could help somebody else with their career and professional development.
And that's what always intrigued me about your profile. If you can tell us, how did this transition happen actually? Like, was it like a flash of moment that, oh, I want to do this, or it was over the period of time you discovered that this is your true calling?
Interesting. So all of these happened as that during over a period of like 10 years. And I would say when I look, see, at that time it was just challenges. I just needed like to figure out how do I now play this game in my life, play this challenge in my life. And there are of course times when I also felt very down and confused, faced a lot of self-doubt, etc. But I think now looking back and connecting the dots, what actually helped me was my training in science, right? So what it did to me was give me what I call an exploratory mindset. So this is something I also really talk to the scientific community about, that there is this exploratory mindset which actually starts with curiosity. right? So scientists always start by asking a question, right, to discover something. And that is curiosity. So when we apply the same lens to our own life, right, instead of asking the question, why is this happening to me? Why am I having to go through this? The question automatically becomes, okay, what is happening here? What am I meant to do with this situation? What is a problem that I need to solve? Right? So it comes in that way. And the other thing I also feel is one of the qualities of this mindset is the ability to embrace failures, right? So as scientists, we are trained to actually fail consistently over a period of time till we actually get to where we need to get to. Or sometimes it's not even like, really proving your hypothesis right. It is also trying to understand, okay, if this result is showing me something else, what is happening here? So in the same way, I think at multiple points in my life, I applied that lens in asking, okay, if I were to leave the science career, I started asking, what can I do with it? How can I combine all these years of experience that I have built in the research? So what happened with me was initially when I made my career transitions, I moved within the science careers. For example, I moved from academic research to industry. Then I moved into science communication. I did a lot of STEM advocacy work, and especially supporting the advancement of women in science. And then I also did research program management, which is managing a $22 million research program. So all of these diverse experiences were possible for me because of all this underlying thing of asking the question, okay, what am I meant to do? And trying out different things and then figuring out, okay, I've had all these career transitions. Now let me see how I can use this knowledge to help the community. So I've upskilled myself in becoming a coach, as a ICF certified coach, as well as keynote speaker.
Wow. I love this exploratory mindset, embracing the failures as a scientist, and just that small shift in the narrative from asking, why did it happen to me? You rephrased it and asked it in a different way that, what can I do in this situation? How can I come out of this situation? So it's really about like asking the right questions to self.
Totally. Yes.
Great. So, since you were mentioning about upskilling, what did you do in particular to establish yourself as a keynote speaker? Or let's say, what is a keynote speaker, if you can, tell us
Yeah.
for the benefit of the audience?
Yeah, it's very interesting you asked that question. Simple terms, right? Speaker who actually sets the theme and a tone for a conference. So back when I was doing my PhD, etc., for our scientific conferences, keynote speakers were the experts in that field. Right? They were the experts. So when I got into actual professional keynote speaker, what I also learned is that it's not just the expertise, right? But you also need to know how to really set the theme well and set the tone for the audience in a way that you engage, motivate, and leave that kind of energy with the audience that leaves them through the day. So then that requires different skills and abilities as a speaker too, in addition to the expertise. So that is what is keynote speaking, essentially.
Okay.
Yeah, and in response to your question of how did I get into keynote speaking? So there was this time, one of the challenges that I faced between my jobs, I started to harbor this feeling of I'm not good enough because I made a relaunch into this career after years of break from the career, and it was a completely new field, right? So I just felt that, oh God, I don't know this, I'm not good at this. And at the same time, I also had become, given birth to my second child. He was little, and all that, fatigue of not sleeping well and coping with the new job, excitement of the new job, everything together affected my self confidence. And over the time, I just felt in some way that I was also losing my voice. So even as a science PhD student, one of the things that I loved doing was to give talks. I just loved it. I loved speaking. I loved using simple stories and analogies to convey the science concepts in a simple way. That somewhere I just felt I needed to get back that voice. I wanted to get back my confidence, which that's what led me to explore programs in speaking. That's it.
Okay.
So I could have been the Toastmasters. It's the Keynote Women Speakers Directories training program. And I was the
Oh,
first batch. Yeah.
nice. So it was exclusively dedicated for keynote speakers, this cohort.
Yeah. So it is like helping people become keynote speakers. Still running, and it's a very valuable program because it also brings together a community of people. Speaking in some ways is also about being able to embrace your vulnerability, uh, because sometimes you are sharing your personal stories, which may not be easy, but
Yeah.
then you are sharing from the space of strength, to empower and inspire.
Very good. So, moving on, since now you're also a career coach and you're also guiding the young scientist community to become better leaders for the future. So, how did this shift happen?
Yeah. So what was happening with me is, time I make an update on LinkedIn, I would get uh, messages from people in science asking, "Hey, could I have some of your time so that I can get some info on how to become a science communicator, program manager, etc." So I was already giving some advice to people, right? One thing I noticed was that when you give advice to people, like for example, people can get inspired through my life, but it
Mhm.
doesn't necessarily mean that they do what I did to be successful,
Yeah.
right? I was really getting curious again about, okay, what is it that I can do differently to
Right.
really enable more of these people to pursue what they really want to do. So I had
Yeah.
this thought. Simultaneously, around the same time, when I was going through this self doubt and all that, one of the best things I did for myself was I embraced a big discomfort, which was I had this idea of organizing the Gender Summit in Singapore, which it's a platform that brings together various stakeholders in science, like from policy, from industry, from academia, to explore improvements in or advancement in research and innovation through a gender lens. That is, how can we improve the quality of research itself and also promote the advancement of women?
Mhm.
So yeah, so I had this idea that I wanted to do this in Singapore, but I was also going through a lot of limiting beliefs about myself because I was a science writer then. I didn't really have the so-called, leadership title to, and it was not your bread, chemist. There
Yeah, yeah.
is that, when you really want something, all the universe conspires in with give it, right? So I think that was the first time I started understanding the power of, when you really want something, you can actually make it happen. It really doesn't matter where you are in the professional or a personal level. So I was able to bring in the right stakeholders into the conference to um, to make it actually happen in Singapore. So so it was a sense of achievement. Yeah,
So
huge
you
sense of
rose to the occasion without any titles and you
yes.
just made it happen by your sheer will that I can make it happen in Singapore. This is really inspiring.
Yeah. So that is something wherein I felt that I discovered coaching
Mhm.
around that time. And I felt that it would be a powerful tool for
Mhm.
empowerment as well as career advancement, especially for the science community.
Okay, great. So
Yeah.
before moving on to my next question, I would ask you a little icebreaker here.
Okay.
And my question here is, since you've been talking a lot about upskilling, that what interesting skill you still want to learn, if there's one?
I think it would be something to do with business development, right? That
Okay.
is something that I am actually looking to build more of. It's more of that, skill which is knowledge based and also experience based.
Right.
So, because I come from the science background, and
Hmm.
typically we scientists, tend to just be very comfortable
Nerds.
in the lab or in our own space, right? But then now I'm also seeing that, like even LinkedIn, right? So when I say business, it's also about like personal branding, how you are really able to present yourself uniquely. And
Hmm.
yeah, so, more of in those lines and further.
So, My next question is about public speaking. I mean, you're a great speaker. Clearly, anyone watching this can see, and I can witness it firsthand right now. And public speaking is one of the most dreaded subjects. In fact, it's one of the biggest phobias in the world. So, can you share some practical tips or techniques that you have found particularly effective in engaging and connecting with the audience in general?
Yes, absolutely. It's my pleasure to share. So, there is a name for that phobia. It's called
Yeah,
glossophobia. So even I was very surprised that there is a term to describe this. So
yeah.
I'm like, okay, we are not alone in this.
And
So
vast majority of people on this earth suffer from that phobia.
exactly. So that's what I always say. And, I have interacted with top speakers in the world, experts, and everyone has it actually. But it's just that
Mm,
they found a way to just, like manage it.
mm,
So what I'd like to share from my experience is three things that I really very proactively do to manage my fear as well as also speak effectively. Is one is, and I'll explain it. So one is to breathe, right? Like really tapping into what's under your nose, that is your breath. Okay.
mhm,
Number two is to reframe. So I'll again explain specifically how to do the reframe. Number three is to visualize. Visualize. Okay.
mm,
So
mm,
starting with the breath. So when we get nervous, we start breathing very fast.
mm,
Our voice actually just comes out from this area. So it
mm,
can appear squeaky. It can be appear very. It may sound like you are nervous. Actually,
mm, mm.
it can happen for most people in the first 5 minutes of their speech. Most people will actually have that, right?
Yes.
So, but when you practice breathing on a regular basis, so there are lots of breathing techniques. Okay, even simply observing your breath and
Mm.
take deep breaths by just focusing on the movement of air, you know, and ensuring being very mindful that when you're breathing in, you're actually breathing in to fill your tummy and you're exhaling to let all the air out. So this is something that actually helps to really slow down that breath, that
So,
heart rate.
so you recommended to do it like 5 minutes, 10 minutes before you go on to present?
Yeah. So in general, you should do it every day. Okay,
Okay.
every day. Not because otherwise, when you just try to recall it during this, just before a thing, you may not know, remember, or how to do it. You may
Right.
not do it properly.
So
So
build
and
a muscle memory around it.
yes, exactly. And then five when you're waiting for your turn to speak, right? Just focus on the breath because sometimes I also sometimes feel nervous when you're not the first speaker. You're like
Mm,
actually listening to a lot of speakers and there is just this thought going on in your mind. Oh no, there's no
right.
need to rehearse the content so much in your head. It's best to it's actually best to just calm yourself down through this
Right.
breathing. Number two is reframing, right?
Mm,
So what I do is because I'm a person, I actually love to speak, but
mm,
even then I feel nervous, right?
mm, mm.
So I am like, what is happening here again? What is happening? I mean, I really wanted this, but why am
Yeah.
I feeling nervous, right?
Right.
And many of us actually feel that way because we are also very passionate about it. We want to give our best,
Right.
right? Yeah.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
like, oh my God, you want to give, and then you don't want to also, to be judged by others. You don't, all those thoughts come in, right?
Yeah.
So that's when reframe and visualization actually helps when you actually challenge yourself to say that this is not nervousness, I am simply excited. So reframe nervousness to excitement.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
The yeah, so the same butterflies that you feel, then I also just tell the butterflies, I'm really happy that you're here to just let me know how important this is for me. But can you just fly away? Can you just fly away? Just
Okay.
visualize, yeah, visualize that going away, and you also consistently visualize like, so days before the speech and even before this interview, right? I'm okay. This is how I want to be. I want to present myself,
Mm,
my
mm,
best self, my confident self, and you visualize it happening that way, it will actually work out. Eventually, you will actually replay that when you're
yeah.
really, yeah.
I love these three tips. Great. I mean, you have gained a lot of clarity in your path, and it's just a series of occurrences in your life, and you reached where you are today. Would you have any advice to give to people who are seeking that clarity? and that how can they do that self-reflection in the best possible way?
Absolutely. I'm really happy to share on this because I've been through it so many different times in my life.
Right.
And first and foremost, right, what I want to say is that sometimes it's okay to not have clarity. First thing is that because sometimes like I said, I started with a lot of clarity as a 15-year-old. I knew I wanted to become a cancer drug discovery researcher.
Mm.
So my 15 to 25, 10 years was utter clarity. It was like a
Mm.
straight linear path. At the age
Mm.
of 26, I had my PhD with the Dean's Award and all that.
Wow.
So it was fabulous. But then I moved into being in utter state of confusion for a very long time. So what I
Right.
would say first is start with some self-compassion that
Mm.
it's okay to go through it. Yeah, it is okay to go. Don't beat yourself up for thinking, why am I, everyone seems to have their sense of purpose. They are so
Right.
passionate. Why am I the only one like this? First and
And I've
foremost,
not figured it out yet. What's wrong with me?
what's wrong with me? I just feel, to be very honest, I feel there is a time and place for everything. This may not be what I'm saying is not scientific, but it's
Mm.
just sheer observation through my own life events that you keep putting in your effort. So sometimes it's that, right? You keep putting in your effort, that is, you make progress.
Mm.
But I will share you tips on how to be more strategic
Mm.
about
Mm.
that, right? So that is something like, see, one of the things that I learned as a career coach is the aspect of adjacency. So
Mm.
adjacency is the same thing I used when I am branding myself more as a coach for the scientist community, right? So I
Mhm.
have transitioned as a career coach or whatever, but that doesn't mean that I let go of my 20 years of expertise in science, right? It's a huge time
Right.
that I've spent there, and I carry a wealth of knowledge from that experience alone. So then it was really about adding the next few skills to club it together so that it's not like, oh, she's a new coach. No, I am a
Mm.
person, an individual with so many years of experience. And
Yeah.
even as a coach or a speaker, I'm bringing in all of that experience to the table. Okay.
Mm. Mhm.
So that is number one. Start thinking in terms of adjacency. Or it could be, it needn't be like very directly obvious. It can be
Right.
some transferable skill that you have developed
Mm.
from there.
Mm.
Number two, I feel is getting clarity is really about self awareness.
Mm.
Okay. That asking that question, who am I? Who, beyond my identity, beyond
Mm.
my professional identity, who am I? How
Mm.
many of us actually pause and ask that question?
No,
Hmm?
I don't think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So even identifying and really pinpointing your values as a person, it will take you a long way. For example, for me, even as when I look back, I had respect, integrity, trust. These were my really core values. So
Mhm.
what I do today is always aligned with my personal values.
Mm.
Okay.
Mm.
So it's really getting, and self-awareness is not, it's not something you get it tomorrow.
No. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've done this value exercise with the coach, and from my experience, I can say that once I did, I figured out that there are values which you like to have, but then you actually see you don't necessarily show it in your behavior. For
Yeah.
example, punctuality. It may be that I like to be
Mhm.
punctual, but when I actually see in my life, I'm not. So it's
Yes.
it's an aspiring value, but I'm not really exhibiting that value.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that self reflection comes only after you do it like many times.
Yeah. And it's a very beautiful point that you have brought out, Asa, because that aspirational value is actually key to who you want to become,
Yeah.
right? And that is where you actually, when that aligns, right? When you actually get to do that, that's when you
Mm.
become that very aligned person, all congruent, right? And
Right.
that this is important because that will give that crystal clear focus in
Mm.
what you really want to do and eliminate all clutter and distraction.
Right. Right.
So another thing, in addition to self-awareness, again, start by asking questions. And another thing that I also feel is there is also information gap in
Mm-hmm.
when you think about career transitions or getting the clarity. So I would also say that once you start becoming aware and you think that, okay, maybe this is a career path that I should follow, start
Yeah.
making a career plan. and start making a plan which starts with the goal of what you want to achieve, and then writing what are your existing skills or interests or knowledge level in getting there. If there are gaps in terms of skills or knowledge or information, then fill that gap. And how do you do it? That's where the network, really tapping into network and expanding network plays a big role there.
Absolutely. Okay.
So it will ask you to get out of your comfort zone. Comfort zone in the sense you will really have to get very proactive,
Right.
embrace discomfort, and then slowly, eventually, I'm sure you will get it.
Are there any goals that you're pursuing right now? And what drives you in life in general?
Yeah. So I do have, I'm this actually a person with a lot of drive from within. And my drive is always at what is the next level that I need to play in my life.
Growth mindset.
It's a growth mindset, right? I'm hoping to publish a book. So keeping my fingers crossed, yes. So write and publish a book, yeah, along
If I
these
may
lines.
ask the subject of the book, I don't know if you want to reveal it.
Yeah, sure. Why not? Because that's what I actually post quite a bit on LinkedIn as well with the tag #productive life. And it is based on this question that people used to ask me about, like, how do you have a full-time job, you have a family, 2 kids, and how do you do so many things and still aspire your passion and all that, right? So the aim is to really challenge the conventional definition of productivity, wherein we are checking a number of things to do versus how fulfilled you feel. So redefining productivity in terms of fulfillment, and a person's potential plays a big role in that. So I must say I'm also a work in progress, exploratory, but I really hope to bring out these thoughts in the form of a book.
Nice. I would love to read that. Before we sign off here, what's the best way to reach out to you?
Sure. So I'm quite active on LinkedIn at the moment. So if they look up Dr. Lakshmi Ramachandran, PhD, they should be able to find me. Number 2 is I do have a website, www.drlakshmispeaks.com.
Okay.
For the time being, that would be the best way to reach out to me. Yeah.
Okay. That's great, Dr. Lakshmi. I love this conversation and how you explained such complex topics with such ease. For me, the takeaway is that I have to be really intentional about this exploratory mindset. And also what you spoke about public speaking, I hope it will help me also while I'm doing this podcast to do some breathing exercises and, ask the butterflies to fly away. And I wish you good luck for your book and looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Asta. I really enjoyed this conversation and lots of love to your viewers.